Hello and welcome to Talks on Law. My name is Ingrid Bilovich, and today we have the distinct pleasure of being joined by family law attorney and trial techniques professor here at Emory Law School, Mr. Randall Kessler. Today's topic is about celebrity divorce. How is it different? What's at stake? And what do you do in the absence of a prenup? We're obviously talking about Jeff and Mackenzie Bezos. The Bezos met in the early 90s when they were still working as hedge fund managers in New York. They got married in 1993 and celebrated their 25th wedding anniversary last September. However, following a trial separation, the couple is now headed for divorce. Jeff is, of course, as we know, the founder of Amazon and has an estimated net worth of a staggering $137 billion. Randy, yes, I know, talking about the absence of a prenup.
That was a great opening statement. I mean, he should hire you, I'm telling you.
When you, as an attorney, when you have a case of this magnitude, I mean, this must be the most expensive divorce in history.
Oh, we get them like this all the time.
Yeah.
Man, this is the one that sets the bar. But you know what's interesting to me, and I'm a family lawyer and I've done a lot of speaking and seminars and work with the American Bar. We like cases like this, not just because they're the curiosity factor, but it makes everyone else question, hey, what if it happened to me? It makes people alert to what are the divorce laws and how do the laws work? Do we divide stuff 50-50? So
Right.
yeah, this one's unique. And there is no exact right answer to how do we do this one, but there's no right answer to how to do any of them. So this one, there's some nuances, there's some things we do in the big cases.
Right.
But full disclosure, I've never represented anybody worth $137 billion.
I'm not sure anyone has before this case. Is this the kind of case that essentially makes a lawyer's career?
Or breaks a lawyer's
Or
career.
breaks it?
The truth is there are two sides to every coin, and there's a lot of liability, there's a lot of responsibility. If I was the Bezos lawyer, and I'm not, I would certainly call in my colleagues and my competitors and say, let's put our heads together and let's make sure we all get this right. There's too much risk. I mean, a 1% mistake is $1 billion mistake. It's a $1.3 billion mistake. So the way it might make a lawyer's career, though, is the recognition for handling the case. We as divorce lawyers, we make money by the hour. So the case could settle after a few hours or a few hundred hours. We might make $100,000, $200,000, but not enough to satisfy us for the rest of our lives.
Right.
So if we do a good job, maybe other people hire us because we've done a good job on their case. So the reputation part of it is maybe that might make or break a lawyer's case. But you can get that with someone who's poor but has a very interesting set of facts, or a surrogacy case. So there are a lot of ways a lawyer can make their name. So that's a long answer to, certainly if I was the lawyer representing Jeff Bezos, it would help my career.
Right, right. And from what we know so far, there's no prenup. Why is it that two of the wealthiest people in the world did not have a prenup?
So that's interesting. Apparently they weren't that wealthy when they got married.
Right.
But they could have a postnup. And every state except Ohio allows postnup. So maybe when they started getting money and thought maybe we're not going to last, they should have each secured a certain amount. But there are a lot of reasons people don't have prenups. Why didn't Prince have a will?
Right.
And I think the answer is a lot of people just don't like lawyers.
Right.
I don't want to go to a lawyer's office, or it's not romantic, or I don't have the money to pay a lawyer to do a prenup. So there are 100 reasons why they might not have. And of course, most people that get married, probably everyone that gets married, never
Think
thinks
it's going to last.
Yeah, they think they're not going to get divorced. So I don't need a prenup. That's for people that are going to get divorced. That's not me. So.
Right, right.
But second, third, fourth marriages, maybe.
At least now they know.
Right.
So if there's no prenup, how do you go about dividing the assets? Is it a 50-50 divide?
Well, usually yes. That's the short answer. But the long answer is the fight and the argument and the debate and the litigation is usually not about how to divide it. It's more about what are the assets really.
Right.
We all throw this number around, 137 billion, give or take a few hundred million. But when you're dividing it, before you figure out the percentage, you got to figure out what is it. Right. And not just what is the amount, but is this asset the same as that asset? A retirement account, if you use that for cash, you've got to pay penalties. A house that's worth $10 million, is it worth $10 million if you can't get anybody to buy it? So what are the real values? So what is their real value? In this case, oh my gosh, how do you value what Amazon is worth? I mean, and then the hard part for them is how do you divide that? Because if you have one asset that's worth $100 billion and a few others that are worth a few billion here and there, how do you divide a $1 billion asset? And how do you do it without damaging the company is really, I think, the trick in this case. How do you give her her share and him his share without the public and the stockholders and the people that could change the future of the company thinking, this is my opening, I can go into a competitive business, or there's, you know, a dip in the market. So that's really all the stuff that, you know, is fun to think about as a lawyer. How do you make sure you don't kill the golden goose? That's the phrase we always use.
Right.
You want Amazon to be successful if you represent the wife or the husband, because Amazon being successful means they both keep half of the 135 instead of half of 125 or 110 or whatever it is.
The wealth keeps on generating
Yep.
that. So I think, well, Bezos has about 16% of Amazon stock. What is the most likely outcome? Are they going to sell it off, or is McKinsey going to be a significant shareholder?
I think they're going to consult with the people that run the company, and the first question is, what's best for the company? And if, you know, Steve Jobs being in charge of Apple, that might have been important for a lot of non-financial reasons. Whatever's best for Amazon, I think the family's going to get together and say, if it's best that he be perceived as still being the 16% shareholder, great. If it doesn't matter, maybe it's 8% each.
Right.
Maybe he keeps it with an agreement that if he ever sells, he gives her a percentage, maybe half of what he sells. So there are a lot of possible outcomes. Some form or fashion, they're of course each going to be fine. What's interesting in divorce, Ingrid, is that even though 50-50 is sort of the starting point, he may really want out, or she may be the one that really wants out, and they may say, I could live on 40%. You know, I could live on 10%.
Absolutely.
And you know, if one of them wants to fight and the other doesn't want to fight, they're lucky enough in this case, I'll walk for $10 billion and you can have the other $120 billion, and they'd be fine. So this case should not be hard to settle. I mean, unless there's, I don't want to say egos, it's a pejorative word, but unless there's something about them that says, I'm not going to let him get away with more than 50%, and I'm not going to let her get away with it. So people are interesting.
Right. And I mean, that's a big part of it. From what we've seen so far, they seem to be amicable. They released their joint Twitter statement acknowledging that they want to continue separate lives, but as cherished friends.
That was the great first step.
How important is it for the future of Amazon or the Washington Post that they maintain this amicable relationship in the public?
I think it's invaluable. And again, it's hard to draw an analogy. There are not many or any cases of this magnitude, but I think the Tom Cruise case. That case, a friend of mine represented his wife, and they wouldn't tell me anything about the details. But in that case, Tom Cruise's reputation was so important that settling the case without damage to his reputation might have been more valuable than the extra $100 million or $10 million or whatever it is that he might have given her. I don't know what he gave her or what, and she was fine. Katie Holmes is, you know, done
Star
fine
is
on
all
her
right, right.
But it was an interesting case because in cases like that, the reputation or the big picture is even more important than the money they're fighting about. So they've got every incentive to not do anything that's going to make anybody say Amazon isn't worth it anymore, or let's boycott Amazon. Let's boycott Amazon because Jeff Bezos was ugly towards his wife, or vice versa. So I think, you know, obviously they haven't gotten where they are by being stupid. So
certainly not. Certainly not. So what do we think? Do we think, is there such a thing to begin with as a happy divorce? They seem to be on good terms, but there has been some rumors of an extramarital affair. There were some text messages that surfaced. I believe that they said that this was after their separation period, but there are some conflicting testimonies about this.
So we see all that. Sometimes, you know, there's a movie with Billy Crystal where he says, you know, my wife's affair is causing the divorce, and they say, no, the affair is just a symptom. And then he says, well, that symptom is sleeping with my wife, you know? So you can argue it 100 different ways. But if you remember Gwyneth Paltrow.
Sure. Chris Martin.
Right, the conscious uncoupling. So, I mean, they had, if you want to call it a happy divorce or a less antagonistic divorce, yeah, there is a way. And when you have a bigger picture, and when you can see the bigger picture, and it's not the money. I mean, that's a big picture, but the kids, you know, it's better for the kids if your parents don't fight. I don't care who you are, kids are half mom and half dad. And if mom said bad things about dad, you're saying bad things about half of the kid. So, you know, the fact that they can keep it together, that's the big picture. And so far, so good. It sounds like they're doing the right thing and keeping it together. And I do think that's better for the company. And yes, there can be a happy divorce, or the good divorce, as people call it. Or a friend of mine wrote a book, she calls it the good karma divorce, where, you know, you get out of it and let's be good co-parents. Let's be good ex-husband and wife. And you know, some people are better off being divorced. And I am absolutely a firm believer that a good divorce is better than a bad marriage. You know, there are people that that stay in bad marriages, and then they get divorced when the kids grow up and the kids are out of school. So the parents say, okay, now we'll get the divorce. And the kids say, Mom, Dad, what took you so long? You were miserable, we were miserable. Why didn't you just do it before? Now everybody, the relief is there. You can go out with people that are more like you. You know, you like art, he likes mathematics, you like sports, she likes the. Do what you like, you know, just figure it out. And I don't know how you figure it out, but you know, nobody married somebody that they hated.
Right.
You know, or maybe once in a blue moon, but you know.
Doesn't seem to be the case here.
Right. So if you cared about them, then there's something good about them.
Right.
Try to see that and say, we can stay friendly, and good for those people that can do it.
Now, it seems that they have, I mean, yes, Jeff is the founder, but from what reports are saying is that Mackenzie had an invaluable part in getting Amazon started. So
even if she didn't have any involvement, which she did, you can't get there without some support. And there are some people that say, I made $1 million despite my spouse. It's got to be almost impossible to make that argument in court. I couldn't make it with a straight face that he made $137 billion despite his wife, who did everything she can to ruin it. So, you know, you're that successful, there's enough credit to go around. But yeah, she was involved. The interesting thing about divorce, though, Ingrid, is that whether the spouse participated or not, it's marital money. If it was earned during the marriage, you know, and that's interesting because sometimes people, one earns it, the other one spends it, and then whatever's left, it's not fair they're dividing if this one spent it. But the way the laws are in America, if it's in the pot and it was earned during the marriage, the presumption is it should be 50-50, unless there's some extreme circumstance. Somebody was a jerk, somebody stole money and gave it to their boyfriend in Africa, then they shouldn't get 50% of what's left.
Right. Well, we certainly wish them the best, and it seems like it's going to be a decent divorce so far.
And you know, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. It'd be fun to sort of see what those negotiations are like. And look, it's like anything. If you're a criminal defense lawyer, everybody that's a criminal defense lawyer watch TV. Man, wouldn't it be cool or great or interesting to be in that courtroom and be doing that? So that's what it's like for divorce lawyers. There's no hiding the fact that we're all curious, and because what we do is so miserable and so tough that, you know, every now and then you get this interesting fact pattern. Like, hypothetically, let's say you had $137 billion to divide. It's fun to think about. So, and maybe it'll change some law. Maybe it'll make people realize that I don't care whether you have $137 billion or zero. The way the Bezos handle their divorce is the way I want to handle mine. I want to be professional. I want to be cooperative. I want the world to know I get along with my spouse. It's good for my kids. So maybe they'll do some good in the middle of their hard time.
Well, we certainly hope so. Thank you so much for tuning in. It was a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you for having me. This was very nice.
Thank you.